Am I the jerk for telling my sister that my other pregnant sister is planning to name her baby after her deceased son, causing her to cut her off? Am I the jerk? I have 2 sisters, and I'm the middle sister. My older sister lost her son late in 2022, so it has not even been 2 years yet. He passed away at 6 months due to SIDS. My older sister has been mourning him ever since. My little sister is pregnant with her first child now, and she found out it is a boy. When I was over at her house, we were talking about her plans for the pregnancy and the baby. She told me she plans to name her son the same name as my older sister's deceased son and keep it a surprise. I can tell she thought it was an honor, but knowing my older sister, she would be devastated if that happened. I told my little sister I do not think it is a good idea and that our older sister would not find it sweet and honorable. It would hurt her even more. We argued about it, and she said that I was being dramatic. Even though I knew it was supposed to be a surprise, I knew my older sister would be even more depressed than she already is if our little sister named her son after her deceased son. So I went against my little sister's wishes and told my older sister. As I expected, she was very upset. She said it was incredibly disgusting and selfish to do that, knowing how fresh it is for her, and that she does not want to see a baby with her son's name in the family, which I agreed with. She was very grateful that I told her before he was born, because she said she does not know how badly that would have triggered her. She, of course, confronted my little sister, and they argued about it for a while, with everyone in our family siding with my older sister. My little sister called me in tears, saying I am the reason that my older sister cut her off and is not speaking to her because she is still going to name her son after our nephew, even with my older sister begging her not to. She said that she does not find it an honor and that it would hurt her to see another child named after her deceased one. I told my little sister she is a horrible person for still going through with this, knowing how much it hurts our older sister. She says I am an asshole for telling her since it was supposed to be a surprise at birth, and that seeing her nephew with her son's name would make her realize it is a good thing, and she is just trying to be a good person. She says I am an asshole for making them fight. Am I the jerk? You did nothing wrong here. Your little sister knows this choice will hurt your older sister, and she doesn't care. The lack of empathy and compassion would be my final straw. This is not one of those no one owns a name situations. She already knows it will hurt the older sister. How awful. I hope she rethinks this idea and comes up with another name. Am I the jerk for rescheduling my NYC excursion multiple times due to money issues, even if it pisses my friend off? Hey, so I'm making this post knowing my mind, for the most part, is made up. I need to reschedule my trip to New York City. I haven't even bought the tickets yet because I'm just dirt broke right now and worry that this could put me in a very bad spot. I promised my friend from college for months that I'd travel for about a week to go to New York City and visit him. I said this with wholehearted intent to do it, and I had the money. Around May, my then toxic boss pulled the rug on my paid time off, and I had to cancel. My friend has a bit of a fuse and kind of gave me the forget my job, quit wasting your youth talk. I have a very terrible home life, no family support, and I'm working around 60 hours at this job to survive, not for any delusions of grandeur about becoming a billionaire or any nonsense like that. Meanwhile, both his parents are well off, pay for his education, etc. I don't think he means bad, but despite knowing me as long as he has, he seems to be a little bullheaded to the idea that I have no safety net whatsoever. This brings me to the more recent issue, losing my job. I was fired in mid-June and was scraping paycheck to paycheck prior. You can see my posts prior. I literally got desperate to the point of begging on Reddit. I almost got evicted and became homeless. I'll admit he doesn't know the extent of what I went through with this, but at the same time, I think beyond a certain point, it should just be known that if I'm broke, I'm broke. I could not collect unemployment due to how my bosses framed the whole situation, at least not without a giant appeal process. I've been applying to hundreds of jobs and getting nothing back. My friend would criticize me for the types of jobs I apply to, sales jobs, manual labor, etc. Because I have a degree. But I tried to drill it into his head that I currently have no choice and just want to pay my bills. During this time, I had plans to come visit him in mid-August. Even as I was doing Craigslist ads in between jobs, it just became apparent that I'm going to be lucky to not get evicted. I can't just throw $150-ish into tickets without being reckless. I had to use some money to prevent homelessness. I get a job offer, and they aren't really keen on letting me off in my first week or two for a vacation. As much as I hate that, I didn't argue with it because I needed a job. I take up the offer and let my friend know that I'm switching this up to a 3-day weekend in a couple of weeks. This isn't something I want, but it's the extent of what I can do. I'm poor and have no choice. He's not too happy. I worry that my not seeing him is beginning to put a strain on the friendship we had. At the end of the day though, I know I made the right choice by being financially responsible. What I don't know is what I can do to salvage this situation and avoid losing one of my few friends at this point. I lost a lot of my friends with my old job due to how much I worked before. Any advice? Am I the asshole for what I did? How do I not be an asshole as I navigate this situation with my friend? Y'all are adults now and live in different places with different work financial situations, so seeing each other in person isn't always feasible. Whether this friendship survives much beyond college will depend on how much you're both able to understand that and navigate around it. If he really wants to see you, he can come visit you. It sounds like he's having some trouble accepting that and isn't being the most understanding friend right now. Am I the jerk for asking around about my siblings' new partner and being honest with them about what I discovered? I, a 28-year-old man, have a sister, Eva, who is 26 years old. Our parents were pretty much absent while we were growing up, so I looked out for Eva at school. I left for college when she was 16, and around this time she got into a relationship with Alex, who at the time was 20 years old. I found out about the relationship when Eva's friend reached out to me, but Eva did not seem to see anything wrong with it. Our relationship was strained because I did not approve of her relationship with Alex, and our parents turned a blind eye to it. She was devastated when he broke up with her about a year later, and we mended our relationship. Since then, Eva has seen a few other men, but all of her relationships have been toxic or abusive, and she has pledged to learn from her mistakes each time. Her last breakup was awful. He kicked her out of their house, and she came to my door at 2 a.m. in tears. She has been staying with me since and helps us with childcare and groceries. Last week, she told me she had met someone and wanted my wife and me to meet her new boyfriend. She said this guy was different and responsible. He had a son who went to school with my daughter, and they met when she picked up my daughter from school. My wife was happy for her, but I was skeptical. When she told me who he was, I asked some of the other fathers, who told me that he has a son at the school. They also mentioned he has 2 sons from an ex-wife whom he does not see or pay child support for. I do not believe in rumors, but this information came from several fathers, and one of them knew his ex-wife. I told Eva what I had heard, and she blew up at me, saying she is perfectly fine to make her own decisions and does not need me to control her dating life. She called me an asshole because this was an invasion of her privacy, and said she was upset I did not trust her to live her life. I told her I could not deal with her getting into another explosive relationship because it ends up with her on my doorstep at 2 a.m., and she is not willing to change. She stormed out of our house and will not answer my calls or my wife's. In the heat of the moment, I was quite upset with her, but maybe there was a better way of saying this to Eva. You are not the one to blame. She needs to understand that you care about her and don't want to see her get hurt like she has been in the past. It's understandable to be frustrated that she's making the same mistakes over and over again, especially when you're helping her rebuild her life after previous bad relationships. At some point, it might be necessary to stop being a safety net if she's diving headfirst into every risky relationship. Am I the jerk for finding a party guest request rude? Last night, I hosted a small gathering with a few friends at my place. One of the guests, who is a friend of a friend, asked if it would be possible to bring their own food to the party since they have dietary restrictions. I tried to accommodate them by asking about their specific restrictions and offering to make adjustments to the menu, but they insisted on bringing their own food. I found this request rude and felt like it was disrespectful to me as the host. I put time and effort into planning and preparing the food for the party, and I felt like it was a slap in the face for someone to bring their own food without even giving me a chance to accommodate their needs. Some of my friends think I overreacted and that I should have been more understanding of the guests' dietary restrictions. Others agree with me and think that the guest should have been more considerate of my efforts as the host. Am I the jerk for feeling this way? I am a 27-year-old man visiting my parents for a week. The day I arrived, they were hosting a birthday party for their 85-year-old neighbor, who has been an amazing friend to our family. The party guests included my parents' brother, the neighbor and her partner, the neighbor's sister and partner, their children and grandchildren, and another neighboring family with 3 children all under 7. There were about 20 to 25 people in and outside the house at the peak of the party. My parents have a 4-year-old golden doodle who can get rather excited around many people and has a history of jumping on people. This can be concerning for someone as old as the birthday woman or young children like the neighbors, as the dog can knock them down. We have made significant progress in curbing this behavior, but occasionally, the excitement gets the better of her. Going into the party, my brother, father, and I knew we would take turns holding her leash and keeping her calm. During the first 2 hours, we occasionally kept the dog at a distance to help her adjust to new folks joining the party. There was not an instance of her jumping on anyone. About 2 hours in, I had the dog by my side, leash in hand, sitting on the edge of the general area inside. She was calm and not showing any signs of hyperactivity. One of the birthday woman's daughters, whom I hadn't met before and was probably in her 40s or 50s, asked me to move farther away for the sake of the young neighbor children. I did not see why this was necessary, but I did not want to argue and cause conflict, as my mother can get very particular when hosting. A couple of minutes later, my father asked if the dog was causing me to remove myself from the crowd. I explained the situation and remarked that I found the request rude, given that the dog was calm and the children were more than 15 feet away. He neither agreed nor disagreed, but this conversation was relayed to my mother. When my mother and I were briefly alone, she told me to let it go. I explained my reasons, and she said the dog is more comfortable at a distance from people. I pointed out that this was not the reason given to me for moving. She insisted I did not understand. It is hard to disagree on her point since I only see the dog occasionally, but I saw her being calmer on the edge of the crowd. Ultimately, the situation seems trivial, but I feel like I am being told I am wrong for finding the request rude. I did not interact with the daughter for the rest of the party, so I do not think I held a grudge. I only mentioned it to my father because he asked why I moved. So, am I the asshole? Yes, you bear some fault. There are any number of valid reasons for her to ask you to move further away that you didn't need to take offense to. Maybe one of the kids is allergic. Doodles are only sometimes hypoallergenic to dogs, or maybe they're afraid of large dogs. Ultimately, the situation seems trivial, but it's important to respect others' comfort in shared spaces. Am I the jerk for asking my sibling if we can take my driving practice a little slower? I am trying to get my driver's license. I live in a state where it's pretty difficult to acquire a license without having previous driver's education experience. I was going to take driver's education at 16, but due to COVID-19 restrictions, my school wouldn't allow me to take the course. I decided to wait until I was 18 instead. I wasn't able to sign up for my permit until I was 19 because life got in the way. My sister has been my guardian since I was 15. She raised me throughout high school. She has been teaching me how to drive and helped me buy my first car. We still live together and we're about to move into our new apartment in a month. Our new apartment is halfway across the country, and I absolutely need my driver's license in order to start working and paying rent. I passed my written exam, got my permit, did my hours, and then sent in my driving log. My road test is in 2 weeks. I haven't had a lot of time to practice driving. It's been a couple of months, but it's nobody's fault, nor my own. We both agree on that. So she is having me practice a ton. But this is where I'm frustrated. Instead of letting me practice things like parallel parking or back-in parking in a low-traffic area, she is having me do these things on the spot in very high-traffic areas. I personally think she is pushing me too fast. Tonight, she wants me to parallel park on the busiest side of town without practicing beforehand. We both understand that I need to pass this test, or else I'll have to redo the entire process again in a different state. But I'm terrified to parallel park on a busy street during rush hour without practice. When I ask her if we can take things slower because I'm not ready yet, she tells me to suck it up and that I'll sink or swim. I'm not saying I won't do it, just that I'd like a little practice first. If she let me practice a little bit before we go, I wouldn't mind doing it tonight. But she refuses. Am I the asshole for asking to take things slower? Your sister is right. It's sink or swim now. You've had 4 years to learn how to drive, more if you could have started earlier. The key thing to focus on now is building confidence, not just driving skills, so try to avoid high-pressure environments. Remember, the driving test won't be in high-traffic areas, and it's generally easier than the practice runs. Am I the jerk for not wanting to hijack my brother-in-law's honeymoon with my wife? I, a 28-year-old man, have been married to my wife, a 27-year-old woman, for 2 years now. Financially, we have both been struggling a bit in the past years, but our situation is mostly fine now. We still live a relatively modest life, and we cannot afford to casually go on expensive trips to other countries. Even our honeymoon was only a trip to a beach in our country where we had already been, and even that cost us quite a lot. My wife's older brother, a 33-year-old man, is definitely much wealthier than us and is known for spoiling his now fiancée, a 30-year-old woman, with gifts and expensive trips. My wife has commented a couple of times on it, and I could feel she was secretly jealous about it. She and her brother are very close to each other, and he helped us quite a bit during the times we were struggling financially. He even allowed her to be a bridesmaid at his wedding, even though my wife and my brother-in-law's fiancé are not really close. Yesterday, my brother-in-law announced in front of their family that he wants to reward his sister for putting so much effort into planning his wedding by fully paying for both of us to go with him and his fiancée on their honeymoon in Paris for a full week. Before I could say anything, my wife immediately accepted it and hugged her brother. However, his fiancée started going at him about inviting us to their honeymoon without discussing it with her beforehand. My brother-in-law defended himself by saying he just wanted to help his sister experience something she cannot do on her own. They were arguing when my wife suddenly intervened and told her brother's fiancé to stop acting like such an entitled brat, because not everyone is as lucky as her to have a wealthy enough partner to support them. My brother-in-law's fiancé started yelling at my wife about how she is just a leech to her brother, who took over her wedding and now wants to invade her honeymoon too. I eventually got my wife out of there. On the way out, I told her that maybe it would be better for us to refuse going on my brother-in-law's honeymoon, as his fiancé is clearly uncomfortable with it. She asked me if I was an idiot for wanting to pass up a trip to Paris for free, and said that she worked way too hard to convince her brother to invite us for her to back out from it now. I told her that maybe she can arrange something else for us, and I do not want to be the reason a marriage falls apart. My wife told me their marriage is not our business but theirs, and if it falls apart, it would be only my brother-in-law's fiancé's fault. I told my wife I want no part in this, and I will not be going on this shared honeymoon. She started arguing with me about how she cannot believe I would act this way when she only did this for us, and said that she will take her brother's offer without me if she has to. We ended up sleeping in different beds, and even today my wife is still giving me the cold shoulder. So, am I the antagonist for my refusal? Oh my goodness. At this point, the wedding may be called off, and your wife and her brother might end up going to Paris together. Your wife meddled with their wedding planning and weaseled an invitation to join the happy couple on their honeymoon. No sane person behaves this way. You are not the bad guy in this situation. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.